Okay, folks, we're going to get started here. It is March the 25th, and we're going to start off with our morning scriptures from Steve, and then Leonard's going to talk to us about the Texas bottling bill. Okay, Steve, you ready?
Proverbs 25. Today's March 25th. These are the Proverbs of Solomon, which are the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah, copied. It is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the glory of kings is to search out a matter. As the heavens were height and the earth were depth, so the heart of kings is unsearchable. Take away the dross from silver, and it will go to the silversmith for jewelry. Take away the wicked from before the king, and his throne will be established in righteousness. Do not exalt yourself in the presence of the king. Do not stand in the place of the great, for it is better that he say to you, come up here, than you should be put lower in the presence of the prince, whom your eyes have seen. Do not go hastily to court, for what you will do in the end when your neighbor has put you to shame. Well, what will you do in the end when your neighbor has put you to shame? Debate your case with your neighbor, and do not disclose the secret to another, lest he who hears it expose your shame, and your reputation be ruined. The word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver, like an earring of gold and an ornament of fine gold is a wise rebuker to an obedient ear. Like the cold of snow in time of harvest, it is a faithful messenger to those who send him. For he refuses the soul of his master. Whoever falsely boasts of giving is like clouds and wind without rain. By long forbearance a ruler is persuaded, and a gentle tongue breaks a bone. Have you found honey? Eat only as much as you need, lest you be filled with it and vomit. Seldom set your foot in your neighbor's house, lest he become wary of you and hate you. A man who bears false witnesses against his neighbor is like a club, a sword, and a sharp arrow. Confidence in an unfaithful man in time of trouble is like a bad tooth and a foot out of joint. Like one who takes away a garment in cold weather, and like vinegar in soda is one who sings songs to a heavy heart. If your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. For you do not heap coals of fire on his head, or you will heap coals of fire on his head, and the Lord will reward you. Your north winds bring forth rain, and a backbiting tongue and angry countenance. It is better to dwell in a corner of a housetop than in a house shared with a contentious woman. As cold water to a weary soul, so is good news from a far country. A righteous man who falters before the wicked is like a murky spring and a polluted well. It is not good to eat much honey, so to seek one's own glory is not glory. Whoever has no rule over his own spirit is like a city broken down without walls. And that concludes today's proverb.
Thank you, Steve. Our first guest is from California, and he...
Wait a second, almost 4 years here.
Well, he's now a Texian, and he's going to tell us about what's going on now in Texas with the bottling problem they had in California.
He's a California state bee.
Here you go, Leonard. Let's hear about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Is the camera okay? There we go. All right. This is about 2 weeks ago I found out that two politicians here in Texas had submitted bottle bill language One is Lujan, a Republican down in San Antonio. He submitted the same language that Senator Johnson from the Dallas area submitted. So first thing I noticed is you got one Republican, one Democrat submitting the same thing. The language is about 8 pages. It's more about what it doesn't say than what it does say. There's too much left out. Now, I was with the California Bottle Bill since its beginning, and the company that I worked for soon became the biggest in containers within about 4 or 5 years. My job was to know the law and the regulations and to participate in those regulations and the creation of those regulations. So I've been in and outside that program for a long time. And this is a tangential note. Most people don't understand the process at all, and that's a real problem in California. So I go through the bill, and it's a combination of 2 California models. It's kind of a California hybrid. Number 1, it starts with redemption. If you see a container, you'll see CACRV, and CRV stands for California Redemption Value. On every aluminum can, it's on the side of all the bottles, you'll see it. You pay a redemption fee when you buy beverages, and you get it back when you take it to a recycling center. That's the model. If you toss it away, somebody else can pick it up and collect the bounty on it. If you give it to your trash company in curbside, they can collect the bounty on it. That's redemption. Now, then it goes into a term called a consortium. It creates a consortium. Consortium comes under 2 different concepts that are basically very similar. Extended producer responsibility and producer responsibility organizations. What the hell are those? Well, the government mandates that the industry that's creating all these beverages create their own committee and appoint people to it and come up with the methodology to run the program. Now, generally speaking, I got management consulting and training background. Committees don't work very well. So this is presenting an obstacle in the program. And we'll talk about that more at the end. Now, as I went through the bill, it gives some authority over the program to the Texas Comptroller. And it gives other responsibility over the program to Texas Commission on Environmental, whatever it is. Texas's EPA, easier for me to say. And they would both have involvement with the program as well as the consortium. It goes through definitions. It seems to be, for me, very, very lax and missing a lot of definitions. It goes into the consortium can create a bank account and designate where the money goes. They're to pay the bank, or pay the money out to people when they recycle. One of the things that I didn't like in there is that it can pay for cities to build recycling centers with that money. And so now you're putting cities into private business. I don't think that ever works out well, but that's how they've started it. So they see it as cities wanting to make money, perform a service, I guess. We'll see how that works out. Then, as I went through it, there was some confusion to me on how this would all get set up. But it did say that as far as establishing rates and redemption and whatnot, the consortium would do that, and they could also get counsel from Texas Waste Management Authority. I'm really bastardizing that. But there is an organization probably of all the trash haulers that
it's called Texas Waste Management, I believe.
It's longer than that.
Okay.
And I'll get you some information on it. But basically, I've been in recycling for about 40 years now. The difference between recycling and trash is recycling pays for itself, generally speaking. Trash always charges. That's why they like to get these things. and they will charge, and even if they do a bad job, they're still charging. If they're running at high cost, they'll want more. That's my opinion. That's what I've seen in practice in California. I created a video on this last night, so that'll be up on YouTube later today, and I'll text the link to Darren, and he can share it if you want. I'll also find a place where I can post my analysis. I'll be sending this to my senator, who's chair of the Senate Natural Resources. He's got oversight. He'll get it. The committee person will get it. I've already researched all the people to get it. The authors will get it. I'm going to really question the Republican down in San Antonio. What the hell are you doing? Do you realize what you put out here? And see if there's any nefarious conflicts in there. I expect it. I ended the video with a discussion of the EPRs, Extended Producer Responsibility Organizations, PROs, Producer Responsibility Organization. And I talked about this earlier. It's a committee. Now, I've got a lot of expertise in organizational behavior. And if you have a committee, you usually find that the committees are dominated by the stronger personalities. You'll find the same things with juries and whatnot. Then you're going to have all kinds of big companies and little companies in this organization. And guess who's going to want to dominate? The big companies. And can you say Coca-Cola? I've seen stuff on Coca-Cola where they go into let's say a third world country and they want to sell their product. And so they immediately kind of take charge of how the bottles are disposed of. They're trying to incentivize and manage other countries' waste. And to me, that's scary. So I don't like that. And if you look at what Coca-Cola has done in California, they promote the use of PET. They say it's sustainable, and yet the recyclers go out of business because there's too much PET and there's no market for it. Let's put it this way. There's not a sustainable market for it. The price isn't high enough. And they'll go buy material cheap out of country, from Mexico, whatnot. So it's not working. The Extended Producer Responsibility Organization in California has been used for mattresses, for carpeting. From another article I learned there's another function that they're recycling on. And then a couple of years ago, they stuck it into the California bottle bill in a bastardized way to screw things up. Now the grocers in California are supposed to take responsibility. Grocers and retailers are supposed to take responsibility for a recycling center. And then they use the creation of their committee. It's called a stewardship program, stewardship plan. So everybody who's in the area becomes a steward. It's a non-profit, so if this thing is successful like it should be, the money's going to be locked up and only used for ways not intended, not beneficial. So there's a lot of problems with the EPR model. And then today I got an email, because I have Google alerts, and an organization called Aaron Fox Schiff. Now they're a consulting firm. They might be an accounting firm also. I don't know. But they did a thing. Newsom just pulled a rulemaking package. They were making regulations for recycling plastics. And here they bit off way more than they can chew. They've been trying to do this. They're running out of time. In California, if they start the rulemaking process, it has to be done within a year. So he's pulled it. So this is a serious problem with these types of programs, and they're proposing it for here, and I don't know why. Well, I do know. Here's my hunch. Last year, around this time, April, Earth Day, around the 20th of April, Trammell Crow's organization, EarthX, had a conference here in Dallas, about 5 days. I did not go. They had Gavin Newsom come out, and the acting director of Cal Recycle, and somebody else come out to tout the California bottle bill, and now, roughly a year later, we see 2 hybrid systems coming out of California to come to Texas. And at the end of the video that you guys can see later, I simply said, I encourage a no vote on this program unless it's amended. And the question is, can it be amended? I will say this, human nature being what it is, and shall I say, California being somewhat of a godless state, the people who have gotten into the program to recycle containers have been attacked unmercifully by a bureaucracy which is toxic. And I didn't realize how bad it was until I met a guy who had been in charge of the Office of Administrative Law in California. They're the ones that oversee everybody who's trying to create regulation. And he told me there were 3 kinds of people in regulation: good, bad, and evil. And he's had plenty of interaction with CalRecycle, and every time we talk about it, he says that's the evil. And I knew him to be a religious and spiritual man, but one day I said, now, what do you consider evil? And he says, the denial of due process. So we come down to constitutional issues. Joe's around here. Joe, when you brought in that thing about the administrative law judges, oh, that sent me down a rabbit hole, because if administrative law is legal, well, let's put it this way, it's not legal, it's not constitutional. And I've seen so many violations of constitutional protections in the administrative law system in California. Denial of due process, guilty until proven innocent, guilt by association, right to speedy decisions completely obliterated. The deck is stacked against them, and here's where I'll put in my pitch about immigration. Majority of the people in California recycling centers that I've dealt with are immigrants, legal immigrants, and then there's a high concentration of Hispanics, a lot from Mexico, and you go into Central Valley and you'll find extended families in the recycling business. Brothers, aunts, uncles, cousins, they all, open up their own recycling center, and they can do okay, unless the state comes after them. This brought me to a guy, I think his name is Philip Hamburger. He wrote a book. I got to get it. It's about $30 though. And it says, is administrative law constitutional? And based on my experience in California, the answer is no. So the question is, could it be made constitutional? I'm not decided on that yet, Darren. Darren's shaking his head no. If we create and this is how I hypothesize, so I'm testing on you guys right now. I didn't expect to talk about this. If an agency determines a need for a regulation and proposes it and gets comment back, and then maybe the law provides that it can be used on a temporary basis, but within 6 months, that regulation must be voted on by the legislature and approved by the governor, could it then be constitutional?
All the regulatory law only applies to corporations. It does not apply to living human beings. Right. So, the way
Well, but, okay, hold on. You're talking about, in my terms, the ideal world, but we're not in the ideal world.
Well, you're either in an ideal world or reasonably attempting to, or you're in hell. California is collapsing. Millions of people are going to starve when the system fails.
Steve and I attend Rafael Cruz's Bible study, and he doesn't know how he's been touching me, and I need to touch him back. A few weeks back, he brought up a book called I Have Met the Enemy and He Is Us. I have that book, and it's a cartoon book by Walt Kelly. Pogo is the cartoon character. But I have seen that the people who go to work for the state become the enemy of the people who live there. And then he came up with a song by the Women Folk, and I happen to have the Women Folks album because I was into folk music back in the 60s. And he brought up Little Houses, and I sent him that and a couple of others that were on the album. One of them is One Man's Hands, and it basically starts out one man's hands and two man's hands plus 50 make $1 million or more. And he's talking about tearing the walls down of the prison. I think that basically identifies California pretty well. Those people are in prison, and I escaped.
How much violence is there in California?
Oh, don't ask me. You know what? I listen to LA radio all day long. The talk shows out of LA, so I get the local news. But I don't know. I couldn't say that there's any more or less than there is here. And it depends upon the part of the country. Fresno, Indio, Oakland, all murder capitals of California.
Men will be either ruled by God or they'll be ruled by men.
There's one thing that always went through my head is the people who go out to do the enforcement and put good people out of business. They are not taking care of their brother. They are not their brother's keeper. They're their brother's enemy. And that's why I say it boils down to God. It boils down to the 10 Commandments. It could be that simple. And you don't find it in administrative law. And the only way you make administrative law better, or one of the primary ways, is you've got to insist on competence. So if people are going to go out and enforce in California under that program, they should have gone through a training program on the Administrative Procedures Act and the constitutional protections in that act. Because I've seen the worst of it all. I've seen them regulate from memos, which you have to petition, but the department agrees, and then they have to stop, and then they never stop. I've seen a lot of bad and evil behavior out there. And the question is, how do we keep it from coming here? And this place is like a drag strip. California legislation is like a Mans 24-hour endurance race. It just goes on, and you get tired, and finally you're glad when it's all over. But here, it's like a drag race. 140 days. Goes into a policy committee, goes to the floor. From what I'm told, if it's amended, it's probably going to amend it on the floor. You have the same bill coming from two different directions, from the Senate to the House, from the House to the Senate. This is going to be interesting for me to watch this and try to head it off. We'll see how it goes. Wish me luck.
Good luck.
Thank you. Who's next?
Dr. John, you want to speak? You said you were
Earlier you mentioned something like GFP. What was that?
Steve, your question is what?
You said something like GFP.
You mean ERP?
Yeah.
ERP and PRO.
What does that mean?
about 20 minutes, Joe.
ERP means Extended Producer Responsibility. That means that if you make the bottle, you're responsible for the bottle's reuse. Now, this is flow control. This is control. This is controlling the flow of all the potential waste products, resources, and that's central planning, baby. That's socialism or communism.
It looks like it's abolished.
The problem is they're getting the cities involved, and they're going to try to make a big profit, and that's going to really...
Yeah, it's not what you think. Everybody's losing in California. Everybody's losing. Well, let me give you a quick and dirty real quick on where the program is today. And this is one of the things that the Texas Bottle Bill didn't even address, and that's fraud. In California, there's millions of dollars worth of fraud going on all the time, and they have not done a very good job of stopping it. And I think part of it is their bureaucratic way of thinking, okay? Number one, they will go out and surveil recycling centers in Nevada, Arizona. They'll know where it's coming from. They'll watch it come in. They'll watch it get sold. They'll watch the fund get defrauded. And then they go after the recycler who couldn't have known about it, okay? Or shouldn't have known about it. They hold him responsible. That's a gotcha. They're setting them up to fail. And they get more people, they get more money for contracts with the Department of Justice because of their failure. If they had protected the fund when those people brought that material in and they're watching them and they go to sell it, they step right in, they tell the recycler, this is not redeemable, you don't pay, they forfeit the material, they go out of business real quick. But they haven't done that. They have made the recycling industry look like a bunch of crooks. That's one of the things that I've been angry with. And the recycling industry, they fall for it. Hook, line, and sinker. They don't stand up for themselves. Okay? Joe, come on over.
Can I make an announcement real quick, Joe? Because I gotta have Leonard another question.
What's that?